So you made your presentation, you reached out to the podcast that you really want to be on, and they love you. They're ready to bring you on. The interview is scheduled, and you're ready to rock. This is where the magic happens. You're now going to be a guest on that podcast, and you have a chance to make a significant impact with that audience. But there are still some things that you could do to screw the pooch, and I want to help you avoid those things today. Let's talk about 3 things that you can avoid as you become a guest on other podcasts. So putting together a rock star presentation and getting booked on the podcast of your dreams is just half the battle. Now that you're a featured guest on that show, you have to put together a great interview and really knock it out of the park. So how do you do that? Well, we've talked about several things. Obviously, you're invested in this show, you've done some research, you know you're a good fit, you're an expert in your space, so you have a lot to talk about. But there are some little things that can happen along the way that could really damage your credibility and ultimately make the podcaster wonder why they ever brought you on to begin with. Now, I'm bringing these items up today because, number one, they're very avoidable. Number two, I've actually experienced them as a podcast host in the past. It's a little ridiculous, and again, these are things that you can avoid just by doing some very simple, common courtesy steps. So let's get into it. Here's number 1. Okay, so playing with your phone while you're doing a podcast interview is just, it's nuts. This is one of my biggest peeves when it comes to one-on-one human interaction as it is. I've been in meetings where I was actually talking to a person and they just played on their phone the whole time. It's the most disrespectful thing that you can possibly do. If you're not giving the person in front of you your undivided attention, how can you ever expect for that interview to go well? So if you're lined up to be a guest on somebody's podcast, they took the time to bring you onto that guest spot. Don't return the favor by sitting on your cell phone and answering messages and emails. They're all going to be waiting for you when the podcast interview is done. So put your phone on silent. Don't put it on vibrate. I'm talking silence it, even turn it off. Resist the temptation to even touch the phone while you're doing that interview. And when things are all said and done, check your messages then. They're going to be there, as I said. Also, you can have your phone on vibrate and have it sitting on the desk, and that's going to actually reverberate through the recording if a message goes through or if a phone call comes through. It's very easy to avoid. Just put your phone on silent and do not play with your phone while you're doing a podcast interview. So let me tell you a funny story. Years ago, I was set to do an interview with a gentleman, and we had spoke beforehand. Everything was lined up. We were doing things long distance, of course. We weren't in the same city, but we were ready to go. We knew what we were going to talk about. It was going to be a great interview. I shared all the information that he needed to join me online, and when he did, he joined me while he was driving his car. Now, I'm going to take some blame on this because I never explained to him that, sir, I need you to join me from a quiet environment with a reliable internet connection and a microphone if you have one available. We're trying to create the best audio experience possible for my audience, and for both of us to make that impact that we know we can make, we both need to be in an environment that allows it to all come together. To me, that was self-explanatory, but I learned a valuable lesson that day. Never leave anything to chance. If you're a podcast host, make sure you're telling your confirmed guests all of that information, that you need them to join you from a quiet environment with reliable internet and a microphone if they have it available. And if you're going to be using podcast guest marketing to get your message out there, invest in a microphone. It's going to make you sound good. As a podcast guest, make sure you're not the person joining from your telephone, from your cell phone, from your smartphone. Make sure that you're not joining them from a noisy bar. You've taken a lot of time to become a guest on this show, and you want to make a significant impact in front of that audience, right? Do so by joining from a quiet environment with reliable internet and a microphone. It's going to make you sound better. It's going to make your message come across much more clearly, and it's going to put you in a better position to make that impact that you want to make from your efforts. As the man once said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. One of my biggest credos is to go into any interview that you're going to do prepared for that interview. Now, in some cases, podcasters will send you the entire format of the show so you know exactly what they plan on asking you. In other cases, you won't receive anything from those podcasters. In some of the rarest cases, you may get onto a podcast interview where the host has done zero preparation on you, and they're pretty much flying blind for the whole interview. Now, if that happens, that doesn't mean that you have to fly blind. See, you can learn a lot about a podcast host just by listening to some of the shows they produced in the past. One of my biggest peeves is being interrupted when I'm talking. So, if this is a host that does that, you can learn it because if he's done it on a past episode, he's probably going to do it with your interview. So if it's something that normally trips you up, if you know it's coming, you can be better prepared for it. And you can set yourself up to succeed even if they're not doing it on their end. Remember, that's rare because most podcasters want to create the best possible content, so they're going to do their due diligence on you to make sure they get the best interview out of you. But on your end, the way that you can be the best guest possible is to come in prepared, listen to some past episodes, read some reviews, look at their marketing strategy, see how their presence is on social media. You can learn a lot by doing that, and all of that information is going to make you a higher quality guest and help you make a bigger impact when that microphone gets hot. So those are just 3 strategies that you can put into play as you get booked as a guest on other podcasts. But I'd love to hear your experience. What have you experienced as a host or as a guest that you've put into play that have helped you get a better interview produced, no matter which end of the microphone you've been on? Please share your comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more videos that'll hit you every Friday, and click that bell so you know when new videos go live. Can't wait to hear your feedback. Again, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what your experience has been being a podcast host or a guest and the strategies you put into play to get the best possible interview produced. End of video.